guys. You're listening and watching the Charm City Sideline podcast. I'm Bradley. This is Zach. This is Dawson. It is Sunday evening, September 22nd. Ravens just concluded their Week 3 game, defeating the Cowboys 28-25. Definitely not how we wanted that game to be finished, but, got the win. Derrick Henry was running wild. Zach, you got any initial thoughts here?
I feel like we're gonna say this a lot in the next 30 minutes, but this is the most depressed win we've had I can remember. That just didn't feel right. It's how as fans we were feeling as the end of the first half happens. 21-6. It's hey, we had some missed opportunities, but shoot, who doesn't? We're going to get the ball to start the second half. Let's put these guys away. Let's flip this whole season around and get a, stamp of approval dominant W that honestly we'd been kind of used to last year. It happened multiple times. And this time it was basically all the fourth quarter, but it's becoming a thing now. Where a win of this magnitude, where it did flip our season around. Now we have hope going into next week. And I mean, you could see the energy on the field once we got that last first down. Lamar, all the linemen, everyone's pumped and excited and happy to get the win. And it was just so hard fought whenever we had it by a long shot in the beginning. And it just, it sucks. We're sitting here kind of after a win, a big win, and we can't feel that good about it because it's the same stuff that we keep seeing. And I mean, if they got going one drive earlier, if they got that 2-point conversion, if there's so many different times that it really could have fully went their way, and somehow we pull it out. And either way, at the end of it, I'm just so happy for him. It was extremely hard fought. I'm with Tristan here. Tristan's talking about taking the day off tomorrow. Dude, I'm sitting there heart pounding, and we're up 10 points with 3 minutes to go. Who does that? What are we doing? No team in the NFL should be worrying like this. I think there was, I don't think you can always count on us not recovering an onside kick. I think that was ridiculous. We're going to talk about so much more of it, but that's just my initial thoughts. I'm just so exhausted from watching that. I'm just kind of all right, win. Good job, guys. What do we really stamp our, hey, we did really good at this, besides just Derrick Henry dominating,
Yeah, it definitely feels different because we got to win, and it doesn't quite feel like that. Obviously, I'm happy about the win, but there's a lot of elements to this game that need to be addressed quickly. If this team wants any chance of competing this year, it sounds crazy because, like I said, we got a big win against a pretty tough team on the road, but it doesn't really feel like a win. And it's kind of the story of what's been happening a lot recently with the fourth quarter blown leads and the penalties and just the crucial miscues to yourself and just kind of beating yourself up towards the end of the game when in all reality you have control, all through the first half into halftime, coming out the second half. I mean, this was the Ravens game pretty much all the way up until the start of the fourth quarter. And then, truth be told, it was a choke job from there. Luckily, we were able to escape and we had a big enough lead in this game that it didn't catch up to us. But unfortunately, it was a lot closer than it should have been, and it gave all of us a little heart attack, of course. Lamar, pulled through at the end, taking that carry and got us a first down to send us to the victory land, or victory formation. But once again, I think there was a really bad coaching in this game that almost costed us the game. And Tucker missed a field goal, which is starting to get concerning a little bit. And we'll get more into all this, of course, but my initial thoughts on the game are not great. I'm happy with the win, but still just a disaster class second half by this team, and that cannot keep happening.
Yeah. You got a comment from Joseph here. Systematic issues, and it rains, it pours for this team. Tucker, refs, conservative play calling, et cetera, et cetera. But happy for the W. I'm kind of the same way. That first half was just so fun, and then the first drive of the second half.
Yeah.
That's the Raiders. We scored first drive, second half too, right? I mean, it's just
Don't remember.
we come out as the halftime with a perfect drive. It's like, oh yeah, we're running away with this one, and that's like the last time we score. I mean, obviously, it was so nice to see Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pull up the stats here. He had 25 carries, 151, 2 touchdowns. That's 6 yards a carry.
That awesome screen pass too. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Hill was getting involved in the run game, which we said we wanted to see, so I'm glad about that. I think Monken called a great game besides one drive. There was one drive, not even, it's more so one play. And I'll probably make a post about this. But it was in the fourth quarter when it was the drive that Tucker missed the field goal, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're marching down the field. We get another first down, run the ball 2nd and 9, run the ball again 3rd and 5, okay? We are up 28-6. 3rd and 5. I feel like, we are running the ball at will, but you run the ball there. I just do not agree with that call to run the ball there on 3rd and 5. Makes it 4th and 2. Tucker misses the field goal. Cowboys scored 2 touchdowns in a row after that. I just felt like that sequence, whenever this happens to the Ravens, it's conservative play calling in just this little tiny moment. And I felt like, when are you ever running the ball on 3rd and 5? Like, that's pretty rare unless it's Lamar keeping it.
Do you remember by any chance, Brad, like what the actual call was? Like, was it?
It was like a inside zone to Henry. It wasn't even a stretch. It was, and I saw, and I'm not gonna make assumptions, but I saw they showed Monken's camera.
Yeah, they did it a lot.
The play, and then the next camera shot was Lamar looking frustrated, hearing the play call. So I'm not trying to make, like, he could easily just, it could have been about something else, but I just wanted to point out my first point from this game. This always happens because of just very conservative play calling in a certain moment, and it leads to 14 points on 2 drives for the Cowboys. If we, throw a pass to likely Flowers, Bateman over the middle there, pick up the first, the game's over. And we would have won by, 20, 30 points.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to generalize it a little. I like to do this after our games because it's like these stats on paper are just ridiculous. We almost had 300 yards rushing. That's one. 274, 45 carries, 6 yards a carry, basically, for this team today. I mean, I've heard a lot that the Cowboys rushing defense is bad, but I mean, either way, how good the O-line and Derrick Henry and Lamar played in the rushing game was just fantastic. And it's kind of funny because if you're doing that good, the first 3 quarters of the game, the fourth quarter, and with Derrick Henry, you'd think lights out. Like, good night, America. Let's go home. It's supposed to be like this perfect ending where we just kind of dominate them and walk off. It was almost like a mental lapse for everyone on the field for the Ravens. And it just was like, really almost besides the offense, because I think they were very confident and pissed off. And that whole last drive, putting the game away, is just impressive in itself to be able to do that, even after all that game of doing it. Like, they zoom in, I think it's as soon as the drive starts, and each of those O linemen are looking at each other like, hey, 1 first down, let's do it. Like, they're that pumped up. They wanted to end it. And really, we haven't seen anything like that where the team has been, that locked in and communicating and putting pressure on each other to compete and win. And it's in such a big moment too. Like, there's so many good things to talk about. And even with those good stats, it's just incredible to me that we could really have a lapse in the fourth quarter once again. and especially to the magnitude that they had. 19 points, a 2-point conversion away from really having a big chance at taking this game to a completely different direction means that, like, holy crap, like, dude, I'm just scared for the rest of the season. Like, it's a win and I'm scared. Like, I can't like start helping but thinking about, the next few weeks and stuff. And so are we just gonna, get up 10 points, 22 points and blow it every time? Like, when are we gonna, make that stand? When's it gonna turn around and we kind of get confident in the end of a game now? Nowadays it's like this game, I'm sitting just over there laughing hysterically at Derrick Henry stiff arms. Like, he is bullying these guys, and it looks like the game's over, like, by a lot. And in anyone's eyes, it should be. Like, I had people texting me, dude, hey, those Ravens got a big win, man. Oh, dude, hey, finally back on the right side. It's like, dude, I think we've seen this, like, I've seen this way too much. Like, I can tell you right now, this is not going to end the way we wish it would, which just sucks. I'm thinking really negatively, sadly, in a positive tone here. I'm sorry, but like, I don't know. I'm so puzzled about this game, and I'm, for a win to be like this, just like makes me feel sick. I think it might be the same for you guys.
Yeah, it is kind of insane how we're feeling right now. But I want to give a huge, 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 huge shout out to the offensive line today
Yep.
because they were kind of the villain all week and they were kind of the main headline of, this, depending on how they play in this game, is depending on how this game's going to go. And I think it went in our favor largely apart to the offensive line and how they played because they played out of their minds, to be honest with you. Daniel Falele obviously was, the victim of all the headlines this week. And he played a pretty decent game. I mean, he didn't play a spectacular game, obviously, and he had some plays that were pretty bad, and he's still not great. But he's a large part of to this offensive line success today, in which we were able to get the run game going. And Derrick Henry, obviously, phenomenal game. I mean, ran for over 150
Golly.
yards, 25 carries, 2 touchdowns. Like, that's exactly why he was brought here. Like, he's still got it. Like, it's still Derrick Henry, dude. He's still the exact same he was the last few years. And it just shows you, if this offensive line starts clicking and starts molding into the unit that we want it to be, this is exactly what this Ravens offense can become. And they can become an absolute juggernaut, both through the air and on the ground. And, we saw that, which was great to see. But again, got super conservative in the second half and didn't do exactly what they were doing in the first half, which sucked to see. But the defense also, you got to give credit to them. I know they almost, the team as a whole almost sold this game away, but the defense in the first half was lights out. I mean, this Cowboys offense could not do a thing against us, and they have CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, and like just they got weapons, and they were held in check pretty well, I would say. And overall, this team played a pretty good game. It's crazy how consistently inconsistent they are as far as closing games, because it's just, I feel like one week after another, it's the exact same story. I mean, we were talking about it last week against the Raiders, and here we are again, probably feeling very similar, saying the same things. And it's just, change needs to be made. A change needs to be made. I don't know what that change needs to be right at the second, getting back in the win column. But there needs to be a heart-to-heart conversation within this team's facility about how they need to establish and start closing these games, because you can't do this every week and expect to be a contender, because you're eventually going to play teams that don't let you escape with the victory like we did today. So, they got to get back on track, and I know they got to win today, but still they need to get back on track, and they need to come home next week against a very tough Buffalo Bills team and hopefully handle business in Baltimore. So that's gonna be a tough story. Tough story to overlook because that's a really good team. But today, man, great win, but I'm not feeling great about it. But I do like that this team got the monkey off their back and got that win, in their rearview mirror now, and they can just move on. And now, all the storylines aren't going to be like, oh, 0-3 and stuff like that. So we'll see how this team looks moving forward. I think we escaped the game pretty healthy, which is a good part. I don't think there was anybody who suffered any crazy injuries or anything. It looks like we got out of the game pretty healthy. So hopefully that kind of establishes a good identity in the locker room and they can get back rolling.
Yeah. There's a comment here from our guy Multac. Lamar played amazing, and it kind of provoked a thought in my head that, like, Lamar's played really well all 3 of these games, and we lost 2 of them and almost should have lost a third one. I think that's kind of concerning when your quarterback is playing very well and it's kind of falling apart like this still. I think the first 2 games, especially the Raiders game, I think more so the blame should have been on the offense. Today, I don't think you can really blame the offense at all. When an onside is recovered by the other team, and we did go 3 and out one time, but just I go back to that one conservative spot beginning of the fourth quarter, and Lamar closing it out with that pass to Zay. That's why you're paying a quarterback $250 million. And then the run to pick up the second first down. Yeah, Lamar ice in his veins. I saw a comment. I guess we can start a convo here. Should we be concerned about Andrews yet? And then someone else said that we should be. I don't know because, Likely wasn't that involved either today. So it's kind of hard to say. We didn't really see Andrews making bad plays out there necessarily. I think it wasn't really a tight end game today. And Tom Brady was talking about that a lot too.
It wasn't really a passing game at all today. Like 15 attempts, 2 targets between Likely and Andrews, 1 target each. I mean, that one Andrews target was way over his head. They were trying to get that first down. Brady was even talking about if Lamar threw that any lower, then it's probably a pick.
That was like kind of a throwaway.
Yeah, like it was giving him a chance. It's a ridiculous chance, but I mean, you have to take it. And that was really the only thing I noticed. But I'm not necessarily worried about Andrews. It's more of I've talked about it in the past. It's kind of like a hot hand situation right now. We have a lot of weapons, and getting a lot of them involved is a big deal, especially in this game. Like Brady was talking about 7 different guys catching the ball today. Like that's pretty impressive, especially whenever you get 180 yards out of it, and it's not really one guy making the big plays whatsoever. It was just kind of like whoever's open, let's get him the ball. That clutch Zay throw at the end was impressive, but like that's the only thing I could really point to. The Nelly catch for like 50 yards was unbelievable. I couldn't even believe that happened. There's a lot happening, but I would pump the brakes on any tight end issues right now.
Yeah, I agree with Zach. I agree with you too, Brad. I think it's kind of an overall consensus that, obviously Andrews isn't doing exactly what was expected, to start the season. But I'm not exactly concerned yet, just because, like Brad mentioned, it's not like Isaiah Likely today had 7 targets, 6 catches, and stuff like that. Andrews had 1 target. It was overall just not a passing game. That wasn't the game plan. And we laid it out in the preview pod for this game that there was a blueprint to beat this Cowboys team. There was a blueprint that New Orleans exposed with running, running, and running. And luckily, Baltimore saw that, studied it, and hammered that all day long against the Cowboys, and obviously won the game and ran down their throat and had their way. So I'm glad the Ravens actually came into this game with the correct blueprint in mind and used that as a game plan, and they didn't try to do, an Uno reverse type thing like they've done in the past. So it was nice to see them actually go against, what the Cowboys are not great at defending. And I think they executed the game plan really well, and they kind of force-fed Derrick Henry there towards the end of the game, trying to close it, and they didn't do exactly the greatest job of closing the game, of course, we saw, but, they didn't give up on him. They kept running him, and he had 25 carries, and I think that's exactly what we want to see as far as the Ravens, getting into the second half of these games with a lead. We want to see them just ground and pound and hopefully chew the clock and keep this game in their hands. And, for the most part, they did keep control of the game. I mean, I know towards the end it got a little closer than it should have, but overall we never lost the lead. So, we kept it, and somehow we snuck out with the win. So it's crazy, but we got it done.
Yeah, I see Miles' comment here. How do we feel about the screen passes, man? Today I love the screen passes. They worked. I think did any of them like not work? I can't even think of one that didn't go well. Henry, Hill. Another thing I want to talk about, pass defense. Obviously, it wasn't great down the stretch. I know I saw a comment somewhere. What do you think was the issue with the pass D in the fourth? One thing I did like about Orr, and obviously it didn't help much, but we never played prevent. We never just like let them get 10 yards of play over and over and over again. I liked to see that. Dak Prescott threw the ball 51 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He only averaged 7 yards. Like when if you're going to throw the ball 51 times, you'd be terrible to not have 300 passing yards. Like obviously it's rough.
That's true.
I think Nate Wiggins was put in a couple positions today that I would not put him in. Lamb one-on-one with no safety help a couple times. I thought Humphrey looked great today. I didn't really notice anything from him
Yeah, he
in
looks
the
good.
negative
Mhm.
sense. He made a lot of big plays. I saw a comment about Roquan. It's hard to tell on one of their touchdowns. It just looked like cover 2, and they just
That's what
someone
I
was
thought.
open in the middle of the field. It didn't really.
That's what I thought.
So I don't know. I think it'd be a lot easier to talk about Tuesday night after like watching the film and stuff. But do you guys have any thoughts on the pass defense, especially later in the game, and also the pass rush? I know someone mentioned that too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
No, go
I'm
ahead.
going to just say real quick, it's not a long statement, but you could clearly see towards the end of the game, our defense was absolutely gassed. I mean, they were getting ran, and you could see it towards the end of the game, when we were trying to close it out and the Cowboys needed one score. I mean, they were clearly winded. And at that point, you can't even really, sit here and logically be upset with, blown coverage or, them getting exposed because they've been just running for like 20 minutes straight. So, and it's going to happen. But overall, I really like the game Humphrey played. Or Darius Washington played a hell of a game from what I saw. Kyle Hamilton was all over the field. I think that's the best game he's had so far, easily. He was jumping off the screen, making plays everywhere. I didn't really see a lot of Brandon Stevens, so maybe that's a good thing. I didn't really see him a lot, in a negative tone like Brad just mentioned. But overall, I think the secondary played a pretty good game. CeeDee Lamb didn't take control of this game. None of their weapons really had a fantastic game. So, I mean, yeah, at the end, of course, they got gassed and stuff for a little bit in those chunk plays, which ultimately brought the game a lot closer than it should have been. But overall, I think the secondary played a pretty solid game. And obviously, they're a little suspect right now with how much yardage they're giving up. But overall, today was much better than last week because they didn't let a guy single handedly take over the game like they did last week with Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I'd love to highlight. We talked about CeeDee Lamb, basically the elite wide receiver for whatever team we play, getting over a certain amount of yards, like 100. I think was the number we talked about. If they do it, their fullback, yeah, he did. But like there's a little something there to see whenever CD gets under in this game 70 yards. But I'm going to put a little more negative tone on it. He got targeted 7 times. I think the 3 that he didn't catch were right through his hands. That's never going to happen again. That's CeeDee Lamb somehow getting the yips for one game. I'm not necessarily thrilled with how the pass defense played because so late into it you give up all those big plays. It just completely changes my mind from the beginning. Even though for about 3/5 of that football game they played really, really good. I want to highlight the fact that if CeeDee Lamb had caught 3 more passes for first downs, that I'm going to guess the whole game is different. Their drives aren't stalling. If Zeke doesn't catch a ball, if Dak doesn't put that ball in his hands for that like 3rd down that he should have had very easily for a first, like there's a lot of times where I was kind of like, wow, I feel like we got lucky, or wow, CD dropped that. I've never seen that. Or even Wiggins getting that incredible fumble on CD. I can't ever picture, most of the top guys in the league fumbling. like that's that's also a very rare case.
Great play by Wiggins.
Yeah. He also had to play like maybe the drive before where he almost jarred it loose, and then it leads to a fumble after all. But I feel like we're going to be pretty set in last place for passing yards now. So there's not really. I would love to talk about how we have this recipe of basically making, hey, we're not going to let CD beat us, or we're not going to let their best guy beat us. But last week that's not true, and this week if CD had those 3 catches, we're looking at a totally different game. Like he probably gets the ball 3 plus more targets in the game. There was some kind of connection issue today with Dak and him. They showed them really upset with each other multiple times. even the defense, like Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence were pissed off at each other at different points. Sure, it was an intense game, like by the end of it, but like I'm not confident on that side of it. Thankfully, like next week, if I can think to that, like Bills don't really have the obvious number one guy. So it's going to be kind of fun and interesting to see where we take it with that, because if Cook is their offense, I'm excited to see, like, we've been really dominant against the run. So what happens with that? But in this game, I'm very, very unimpressed with the pass defense. I want to be very critical of it because I think they would be too. If CeeDee Lamb gets those catches, we are maybe very, very unhappy people right now.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. Walter Brown, the defense again scares me, but with Derrick Henry and Lamar came to play. You look at the stats today on the offensive side of the ball, it looks like a classic blowout game. Lamar, 12 for 15, 182 and a touchdown. I mean, passer rating of 140, 139. Every time we blow out a team, Lamar is always like below 20 pass attempts, 75 completion percentage. But I want to point that out, just going over some team stats here. Again, guys, over 100 yards of penalties.
That's
I
a big issue.
I think someone talked about it. Someone in the comments was talking about it too. I appreciate that.
That's just unacceptable football. I mean, that's textbook football that we're not, agreeing with. And we're not doing good. We're not executing this. And I think it relies obviously heavily on the coaching. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to go towards a head coach with this because the team's just not being disciplined. And I get it. A lot of the flags that they are throwing are very weak or very bogus, I would say. And of course, we're Ravens fans, so we're going to have a little bit of bias towards it. But that roughing the passer towards the end of the game on Odafe Owe was a horrific call. That was terrible. There was a couple other penalties today that I was just like, are you kidding me? But at the end of the day, you can sit here and talk about them all you want. It can't happen. You can't have 3 straight games of damn near, I'm pretty sure, 100 yards and penalties all 3 games, if not more. So it's just unacceptable. And hopefully they clean it up because, you can play a flawless game and be as great as you are. But at the end of the day, if you're getting penalties every single drive and getting all these flags to hold you back, it's not going to allow you to go that far. And, it essentially gave the Cowboys that touchdown towards the end of the game because I think they had 40 yards on that drive from penalties that were given to them or something like that. So, it set them up perfectly to go down and put this game within 1 score, which they did. Or actually, no, I'm sorry, it was a 10-point game after that as they missed. But either way, it's unacceptable and we can't have that many flags. And I just hope and pray they clean it up moving forward because it's going to be rough if that doesn't get cleaned up.
I would love to point out too, that's a perfect take, Dawson. Like all the penalties were rough. But thinking also on a positive note, no turnovers. Like that's something you can lay your hat on. And the bad part is that if you have over 100 yards and turnovers, it kind of perfectly makes up in that loss. Like it's the exact recipe to lose a game. The end of the first half, where it's 21-3, we're feeling real good, and 2 big plays of just penalties. That CD one that was basically in the end zone, where I think Nate got caught kind of right on top of him, and CD had to just, it's a veteran move, it's an elite wide receiver move, and he catches him and gets the PI. That holding call kind of bailed us out. Like they definitely deserved a touchdown on that drive.
I will say though, I will say real quick, Owe might have gotten that sack without the hold.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying anything like that. It's just like, there's many things I point to. Just seeing the defense struggle, and it really just makes me upset because that many penalties combined with the fact that we have no turnovers in this game is just like that. I feel that's kind of why we're so mixed feeling about it. Like it's such an important win to go this way and still feel salty about it in the end.
Yeah, like I think what's weird, because there can be some games where you win and you just feel terrible, like, oh, we did not deserve to win that. I'm not there because, like I said, besides that one sequence, I have no issues with the offensive side of the ball today. None. So it's weird to feel this way after a loss when one side of the ball you think almost had a perfect day. Derrick Henry was unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar played great. Justice said we wanted Justice Hill to get involved. He did. We wanted Bateman to get involved. He did. He had a touchdown. Had a couple nice catches over the middle. They closed out the game. Was clutch at the end after, the defense was just struggling. So I don't know. It's just, I think you can really I almost am okay with a recovered onside kick. That's like hold on,
dude. I was about to say, go ahead.
Like a recovered onside kick versus giving up 3 touchdowns on the defensive side of the ball. Like the onside kick is almost like, okay, that might happen once a year, right? Where it's Zay Flowers maybe first time doing that.
Mm-hmm.
John Harbaugh can't recover the kick for Zay Flowers. But like them being able to just drive down the field easily 3 drives in a row is more so what's concerning to me.
Yeah, because it's become like a common issue. It's crazy to sit here and say, but like I'm serious when I say this. I feel like it's a weekly tradition, and it happens every single game that we have like a comfortable lead in. Even dating back to last season and the seasons before, I feel like this happens way too often, way, way, way too often. And we speak about this all the time. It feels like, and it's unfortunate because legitimately at halftime today, I think we were up, you know, quite a few points, and in the back of my mind, I had that feeling. I'm like, this game is not over. And like Zach mentioned earlier when we started this, he was like, you have people texting, oh, Ravens are looking good today. They're getting back in it. Oh, they're going to win. Yeah, yeah. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, this game's not over. There's 30 minutes left. That's plenty of time. All the Ravens need is 1 quarter to blow this up. And luckily, they came out in the third quarter and went downfield right away and scored, which was nice because if we didn't do that, who knows what we'd be talking about right now. But then after that, it was like that's when it started. It all went downhill after that, and we were hanging on by, skin. It was crazy. But I don't know. Like it's still too fresh to me to actually I want to go back and watch the film and see, how this game really went towards the end because my emotions were flaring. I'm sure everybody else's were.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of hard for me to discuss right now exactly how I feel went wrong and how it could have went differently just because the emotions are still high. But I totally agree with both of you. This is probably the worst I've felt about a win in quite some time. And I think all last season, I feel like all of our wins and stuff, or I'm sorry, yeah, all of our wins, they were deserved, but this one, it sounds terrible to say, but I feel like it's kind of not. Just because it was such a blow up in the second half, like it always has been. And it's so infuriating because, this team holds themselves to such a higher standard and, they're better than that. And I don't know what brand of football that is that they're playing because that's not who they are, as we could see through the entire first half. I mean, they controlled this game from first quarter, second quarter, through halftime into midway in the third quarter. It was all Ravens and nothing else. And then it's like a flip of a switch and everything just completely changes. And I don't know. I don't want to sit here and say it's our head coach, but at the same time, it's hard to point at anywhere else. Just because at the end of the day, it's, you got lack of discipline, penalties, conservative play calling and stuff like that. It's easy to point towards a head coach as a scapegoat. And I believe that's who it is in the situation.
Yeah. To talk more about the offense, as you guys know, I'm more of an offensive guy than a defensive guy, but I think Monken might have figured out. He might have figured out. And I think it was so cool having Brady call the game. My mom actually just texted me recently, like a few minutes ago. She was like, "Oh, I love Brady on the call. Like it's so I can understand it." And I think he did a good job today. And he was almost teaching me a lot too. And he was talking about how the Ravens are trying to figure out, when do we run under center? When do we run shotgun? Because we want to do what's best for Henry, but Lamar is better in shotgun, which I would actually slightly disagree with. I think Lamar is great under center, play action on boots and stuff. But I understand what he's saying. Lamar in the run game is from shotgun. But I think it was a perfect combination of the Lamar runs today and the Henry runs and getting Hill involved. And man, I think we keep forgetting Keaton Mitchell is coming back to this offense, guys.
Yeah, that's going to be an absolute firework later in the season or whenever in the next few weeks if he gets back somehow. That's such a speed element, dude, that this team is, like, dude, just imagine adding Keaton Mitchell out there today with how this run game was just absolutely accelerating. It would just be phenomenal. And yeah, I totally agree. This was a game that really stood out to me for Todd Monken. I mean, he called an excellent game for the most part. Of course, the conservative in the second half's a question mark, but I mean, you used every weapon on your offense today, essentially. And, I know the tight ends weren't exactly there, but I mean, you spread the ball around, you got it to all the backs and stuff, and everyone was involved today, which was great to see because once you spread the weapons like that, it opens up your offense so much to so many different elements that you can just go anywhere with the ball, and it's so hard to predict. But I love the just ground and pound with Derrick Henry. It was phenomenal, and obviously you see what he can still do if you give him the whole game on his back. And Todd Monken called a great game, and I think this offense today is exactly what we know it can be. And I think this was just the start of it actually opening up and becoming, this juggernaut offense, if you would.
I'm gonna take this a different direction because I'm like trying almost to like cope and like kind of soothe myself and hopefully you guys about this game. Like just looking at the stats, right? Like we dominate rushing, they dominate passing. No turnovers on either side of the ball, right? Like sure, they had some guys on receiving side that really popped off, but they didn't break almost any rushing stuff. Like they never really got any big plays in that department. We obviously had a few early on, but like if you told me all that, you'd think it'd be a close game. Like it's supposed to be. That's how most football games. I would assume if you find the stats for that kind of thing, they're generally close. It's not like one team would blow them out and then the other one's kind of like, oh yeah, we'll just play really conservative, just keep thinking it down. No, Dak was airing it out. Like Dak was really trying to get something going. He did eventually in the fourth, but like I'm really happy with how this offense played. Like it's a testament to Monken, and honestly, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Harbaugh. Like I think having the discussions all week of, hey, O-line, got to get something different. Hey, what's going on? Change something up. Sure, we had some different looks today, like a few, but like there was a real spark there. Like I feel like Lamar stayed generally safe, besides a few like holding calls and illegal hands to the face stuff. But that stuff can get cleaned up. I think there's a lot to put our hat on for the offensive side of it, like we've been saying. Like it was a generally clean game besides the penalties, but I'm still like even going back to my main point that this game on paper looks like it should be close. Like it should end in a last second field goal. Like it should end by the last play or the last possession. And it did. I'm sure that's going to be kind of a thing that maybe Harbaugh preaches this week where, hey, we got to win. Like it was an impressive win. It even with all those big punches, we were able to get out with it, like in a very hostile environment, especially like as hostile as it gets at the end. Like that place was rocking and Lamar still just games him and puts him away. Like that's really impressive. There's a lot of good in this game. I'm just really proud of him. I think the O-line really came to play against a very good D-line that really could have game wrecked Lamar and all of the O-line. I mean, everything was there for the taking for Dallas, and we still somehow pulled out with it. So I'm proud of them. Then I think these next few weeks are going to be like different looks, because what I mentioned about like the Bills, like I feel like they're kind of the opposite of Dallas. They sure they air it out, but their weapons aren't necessarily elite or anything crazy like you kind of hear about with Dallas and their guys being speedsters and really talented. But I'm excited. I'm excited for the year. I'm trying to fully see this game as like we talked about it last week because we were trying to cope with a really crappy loss. It's like the first quarter of the year, and to win this is a big deal. Is a very big deal.
Yeah, I think the offensive line deserves all the credit. And there wasn't really a point in the game today at any point where I was like, holy crap, Micah Parsons is taking this game over. He's unreal. He was held in check. I literally don't remember one point in the game where he was like popping off the screen. There was one play where he was running behind Lamar to the outside when Lamar was scrambling for a first down, but that's literally the only point I remember in the game where Micah Parsons made an impact. It was pretty crazy to see him get held in check, and huge props, all the credit to the offensive line, the coaching staff who put together, the game plan this week, and probably got in their heads a little bit because that was obviously the topic of the town. So I'm sure there was a heart-to-heart conversation this week in the facility about this, and I'm sure they knew going into this game how big it was going to be and that they had to make an impact, or else it's got to switch it up a little bit. So mad props to the offensive line, props to the offense as a whole. The offensive unit today was spectacular, and I think Todd Monken deserves all the praise because he utilized all the weapons so well, got the ball moving, and executed a perfect game plan when we needed it the most at the end. And obviously, props to our quarterback Lamar. He clutched up at the end, put the team on his back, and got us the win, which is great. And that's exactly why you pay a franchise quarterback the way we paid him. Um, and I want to give a little credit to the defense, as a whole. I know they had their issues, but I still think they're playing a pretty decent brand of football. They got to tighten up the pass defense, of course, but the run defense has been spectacular, and the pass rush has been great. I think Odafe Owe has been very good this season, and we have to be happy with how he's kind of trajecting. So as a whole, overall, I feel a lot better this week than I did last week, obviously, because we won. But still sucks that we lost last week because that should have been a gimme game, especially since the Raiders got manned today by the Panthers. So, like, I saw the score of that game, and I'm like, there's no way we lost this team at home. It's just crazy how football works. But next week's a huge game, and I wish you the best of luck, Zach, because I know you're going to that game. Hopefully, the Ravens can pull off a win for you, especially first time going to the bank. So we'll see. I feel a lot better going into it. Than I would with a loss, obviously, just getting back in the win column. So we'll see how they execute it next week against a very, very tough Buffalo game.
Yeah, you mentioned the pass rush. I want to mention Madubuike, who we haven't talked about much this year because just hasn't really gotten the sack production. He's been great in the run game as always. Basically caused a safety there. That was a little confusing. I think when we talk about the penalties, I always kind of go by what is Mike Pereira, what is Dean Blandino saying? And I'm usually agreeing with them. Mike Pereira was like, yeah, I don't know why this isn't a safety. He was like, yeah, what? But anyway, man, Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah, wow.
He's playing with a fractured eye. It's like getting getting like 2 sacks every game. It's kind of funny.
Incredible.
We thought like the defense was going to be elite, but we were like, pass rush might be a little shaky. Pass rush might be the best part of the defense. Obviously, run stopping is definitely the number one strength. But man, and like even without the sacks, Owe continues to look good. It's nice to see like Ojabo playing full games. He still looks good out there, and like Travis Jones clogging up the middle, along with Madubuike, who I mentioned. Darius Washington. I knew you guys touched on him a little bit. Lockdown today.
God, he was great.
I think he played a lot more today than he had before. He was making plays on CeeDee Lamb today. So that was good to see. You guys mentioned Brandon Stevens. So many plays where he's in tight coverage, and it's like, oh, is that a flag? No, it's not. I think he just does a very good job as being as physical as possible without getting a flag thrown. Same reason I think we all agree that it wasn't a flag when he was covering Adams against the Raiders last week in the end zone. Marcus Williams had a few plays, a nice break on the ball. Could have got a pick there. Michael Pierce played well. You guys have any other thoughts, defensive shout-outs or anything like that?
I think my main one would probably be what you already mentioned, Kyle Van Noy, and Madubuike, of course, but everyone knows, he's good. Kyle Van Noy, fractured orbital bone, week 1 against Kansas City, and the dude hasn't even lost a step. It's insane. He went out there the last 2 weeks, and he's been all over the place, sacking the quarterback and just making a huge impact, which is crazy. The dude is tough as nails. It's the veteran to have with these young guys in the room, and it's awesome to see because he's still so productive and literally our best pass rusher. And the dude's, it's just crazy. He's like the never aging vet who just gets better as the year goes on. It's crazy. Big shout out to him. And then, obviously the defensive line handled business today. I will say I want to see better play from the linebackers. I know they're not exactly having poor play, but there's not that element of seeing Roquan Smith jump off your screen like he did every game it felt like last year so far. I haven't seen any impact play where it's like, holy crap, Roquan Smith's incredible. He's obviously probably playing pretty good ball like he always has. He's a great linebacker, but he's not jumping off the screen right now like the other guys are. So I'm not concerned with him. However, obviously he's going to be great. I'm not worried about Roquan Smith. The dude's going to be incredible, and it won't be long before he's jumping off the screen again. But overall, I think this defensive unit's playing pretty good considering the standards. First year defensive coordinator, and it's just growing pains. Like, it's going to happen. Like, this defense is not going to be dead last in passing defense all season long. It's just not going to happen, especially with how many great players we have in the secondary. It's just growing pains. We saw it with Mike McDonald, like we mentioned. So I say give us a few more weeks, and I think this defense will be a lot tighter and a lot better.
Yeah, this is gonna kind of be weird, but like, I want to give a little credit to myself. In the preview, I called that we were gonna lose this game, so I'd like to call that jinx number 1. Jinx number 2, my outfit for today. Look right here, real Texas barbecue, people. Shout out to Rudy's. That's another jinx. Cowboys colored Post Malone hat.
All right.
Jinx number 3.
All right, Zach.
Hey guys,
Like that was a home run.
guys.
Shout out to everyone that also performed their jinxes. Thank you. We needed it.
If we're talking about fits, okay. I wore my Lamar Ravens jersey with the black hoodie first 2 games. I brought out the Lamar High School jersey today.
Oh shit!
And I think we're gonna be wearing this next week.
Want to know? Yeah.
So wait, do you guys know? We're getting really off track here. Is next week all black or the all purple? Do you guys know?
All black.
Are you sure?
I don't think it's all black. All
I think
black
it's all
is
purple.
November 7th against the Bengals.
I think it's the all purple, Zach.
I chose this game for a reason, gentlemen.
I think
It's all black.
I think you might have chosen the wrong one.
I'm 99% sure it's all black. I'm 99.
Oh my. Oh boy.
Yes, sir. Come on, boys.
All
No,
right, okay,
start
guys.
spamming that in chat. Yes, thank you. Shout out Moltec. Shout out Beast. Thank you.
you guys
All
sure?
black.
Really?
Thank you.
I don't know if they're correct.
Thank
but
you.
I really
we'll
thought it was all purple.
We'll go with it.
All right, final thoughts, guys. Anything?
Nope.
Just feels good to be back in the win column. We got to keep it rolling and get a big win next week and get our home.
I guess me and Dawson are wrong. Okay. I would just say my final thoughts is obviously we're not feeling great because of how it ended, but I think the offense was very, very promising today. And win 1 out of these next 2, and we're in a good spot. So, yeah, win is a win.
Ravens.
Let's see. Shout-outs here. Chat shout-outs. I've been forgetting to do this for a while. XX Beast, appreciate you being here. Moltac, as always. J-Rock. D. Lindemann. Dawson Hess, you've been here for a while. Appreciate you. Fry Reviews. Thanks for being here. Walter Brown. Miles. Carson. Charles. Sandhill Turf. Appreciate you being here. Let's see. Joseph. Tristan. Prime Trust. Thank you to all you guys. We'll be back probably Tuesday night, Q&A. And, yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later. Peace.